I'm just going to ask you a question just to start it off. So, when you think of somebody from Boston, who do you think of? It could be a gruff-looking Irish guy from Southie. It could be maybe a working-class Haitian man from Mattapan, a college student from Northeastern or BU, a rich old lady from the South End. There's so many different ways that someone could answer that question. And anyway, the fact of the matter is that there is no one person that can possibly completely represent the entirety of the diverse culture and ethnic backgrounds in Boston. And that is what I'm here to talk to you about today. So, in this short session, I'm going to explain to you why I believe it is important to portray this complex and diverse identity of Boston, how I'm going to complete this project, and what I hope to accomplish with my final product. So, firstly, I'm going to explain to you why I believe it is important to portray this complex and diverse identity of Boston. So, to many outsiders, Boston is typically seen as an educational powerhouse, has really rich history, has a really tight-knit sense of community, among several other things. Like, it's seen as highly Irish, highly Catholic, white, middle class, Dunkin' Donuts. There's a lot of stereotypes about Boston. But it's just not that simple. Boston is really a conglomeration of people from all walks of life, living, working, existing really in this city for so many different reasons. And with this project, titled Exploring the Complex Multicultural Identity of Boston Through Photography, I seek to portray what Boston means for all of its people as accurately as possible in order to stimulate empathy and understanding and instill a sense of community between all of its people. So, how am I going to do this? And the answer is pretty simple: street photography. I believe that photography is really one of the best ways to establish a connection between humans, because it really allows you to look virtually through someone else's eyes. And actually, in the case of my project, where I'm predominantly using portrait-style photography, really right into the eyes of another person. So for the past 2 months, I've been driving all around the city with my camera. I visited West Roxbury, Rosendale, Allston Brighton, Mattapan, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, North End, downtown, and Dorchester so far. And time is really tight with my, cause I play sports and school and college and everything is obviously a lot to balance. But so whenever I can, I try and get out and take some pictures. I've actually taken some days off of school to go out and just spend the entire day working on this project. And so basically what I do is I choose one part of the city to drive out to, and I just go out with my camera and I just walk the streets. And just really anybody who has free time, so like a person at a bus stop or just kind of walking around, I'll go up to them, just introduce myself, tell them a little bit about my project, and then just ask if I can take their picture. And if they agree, I take their picture. I'll probably take about 5 to 10 pictures of them, and takes really no less than 2 minutes usually, because I don't want people to get really uncomfortable. Because which is understandable, because it's a complete stranger just coming up to you off the street. And so yeah, I get rejected about half the time, which is hard, because it's pretty nerve-wracking to go up to complete strangers and ask to take their picture, because you're really putting yourself out there. So I try and do it with as many people as I can from all over the city. And right now I have about 300 photographs of about 70 different people. And by the end of this project, I would like to have 400 pictures of over 80 people. That's my target goal. And so what I'm going to do with these pictures once I have them is I'm going to create a photo book. And I'm going to compile all the photos, and I'm just going to use an online software to create a sophisticated and professional book that will be able to convey all these findings and really what the central purpose of this project is, which is to show all of the different walks of life that are in Boston. And so what do I hope to accomplish with my final product? So for my third and final point, with this book, I not only hope to create a book that accurately portrays the demographic shifts and socioeconomic differences throughout the city, but what I really want is to create an accessible and simple yet powerful vessel that will effectively instill a sense of understanding, empathy, and community into all who read it. And so before I take some questions, I would like to leave you with a quote from Pulitzer Prize winning writer and theologian Frederick Buechner, and he said, "If we are to love our neighbors, before doing anything else, we must see our neighbors, with our imagination as well as our eyes. That is to say, like artists, we must see not just their faces, but the life behind and within their faces. Here it is love, that is the frame we see them in." So, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Sure. Well, very well done. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
The quote that you just read, did you find that first? Was that the inspiration for your project, or did you come up with the project first and then find a quote that was so fitting?
Yeah, I just found this quote last night.
Oh, wow.
This project had a long building process. I started off with like food photography is what I wanted to do, and then that kind of petered out just because it wasn't really deep enough. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to and this was actually inspired by Humans of New York, mm-hmm. if you've ever seen that blog. Mm-hmm. And it's like the guy he just walks around New York and just takes pictures of all the people there, which is kind of like what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But just doing some research for this presentation, I read a lot of different quotes trying to find a good, like we call it in capstone, a dessert, mm-hmm. to end the talk. And I found this, and I was shocked because it seemed so perfect, because it really summarizes what I'm trying to do with this this project.
Right. I'm just curious, you mentioned that you've been well received by about 50% of the people you've approached to take their photographs. The people who aren't so receptive, do they usually give you a reason, or is there any way to infer as to why they would prefer not to participate?
Yeah, so most of the times people just say like, no thank you, and I just leave it at that. I don't really press mm-hmm. on any further. An interesting point is almost every single person who's refused has been female, which was an interesting thing that I found, mm-hmm. because the first couple times I went out, I actually couldn't get one woman to say yes to letting me take their picture. So I actually had another student who was a girl in Capstan go out with me a time just to have that female presence there, and at that point about 50% of the females agreed to take pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was an interesting bump in the road there. There's a lot of setbacks in this project with of course with the weather, which has been a huge setback because there's a lot of days where I just can't go out because there's a blizzard. And just trying to get around the city now, the traffic, and there's no sidewalks. Mm-hmm. And everybody who's even outside is kind of just trying to get to where they're going as fast as they can and don't really want to, stick around to talk and have their picture taken.
Right.
So, yeah.
And what made you decide to do portrait-style pictures versus canvas? Why do you think that's more representative of Boston?
So I chose the portrait style for two reasons. The first reason is because I really like the effect of the person's eyes looking directly into the camera. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a lot more meaningful in that way, because I feel like you're really able to connect with that person more. Because, of course, you can just walk around Boston and see everybody doing, whatever they're doing. But with this book and with the portraits, it really allows you to look into the eyes of this other person. And in the book, I also have short captions or summaries of my conversations with the people, mm-hmm. or anything that came up when it was happening. So yeah.
Okay. That was actually my next question. Is there going to be any text in the book?
Yeah, so it's gonna be minimal text, but whatever it will be, I think will be meaningful because it's just gonna have small captions or quotations on the conversations that I had with these people.
Okay. And who are you going to share this book with? How are you going to make it accessible to people?
So I'm going to use an online source, just a printing company called Blurb, just to print the first couple of books. I think you're going to print about 4 books to start it off. And those I'll have one for myself, and I'll have one for capstone to have, and maybe one that could get in the school library. And I actually know someone who works for a publishing company. So I haven't started working on that yet. I'm going to after I finish the book, but if I could get the book published, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll be working on that in about a month.
Great. And then I guess my last question is just about the message. You're hoping that these photographs will not only demonstrate, who is Boston and what is Boston, but get the readers or the observers to, have empathy and build a sense of community. Have you thought at all about whether or not any of the text in your book will prompt people to have some reflective questions and kind of come to those conclusions, or will your intro or conclusion portray what your objective is?
Yeah, I think I'm going to include I'm gonna include a foreword where I kind of describe all of that, like what the purpose of the book